usually how things kind of go.
All right, we'll call our meeting to order, and Mr. O'Neill.
Well, thank you, Dave. Welcome, everyone, here this evening, and I'd like to welcome everyone watching the live stream tonight. Happy New Year to you all. Hopefully you had a great holiday break. I'd like to draw the board's attention, since this is the first Board of Education meeting of 2025, we will need approval to have Dave Schremer serve as temporary chairperson to convene this meeting through action item IV.A.1. And so Dave will entertain a motion for temporary chairperson for this meeting.
So moved.
Support.
That was Tina and Stephanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, I think.
You're in.
All right, so we will proceed with the superintendent's report. Oh,
Yes.
before we do that, just so that she can take the meetings, we probably ought to also have a motion that Tamara Young can be our secretary for today until we do our year as well. So I would
So moved.
So moved by
Support.
Tina, support by Stephanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we are legal.
All right.
Proceed.
Well, everyone, January is School Board Recognition Month, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your service and dedication to governing Vicksburg Community Schools and serving our community to ensure our precious students receive the best education possible in safe and secure environments. Thank you so much for filling these important roles. On behalf of the entire VCS family, thank you, thank you, thank you. Included in your folders tonight is a certificate of appreciation from VCS and the proclamation from Governor Whitmer proclaiming January as School Board Appreciation Month. Thanks to you all. And also in front of you is a gift from VCS to appreciate you. So hopefully, well, you might even need that tonight or on the way home. Just a couple things on the legislative front. Friday was very, very busy. Lots of things came through, and I did forward on a lot of e-blasts to you. But again, Lansing does, even though with that being said, it remains relatively quiet. Legislature just returned last week. Big news, the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference took place on Friday. And as you know, that conference brings many people together to look at revenues and expenditures expected over the next few years. The governor and the houses definitely use this information as they present their budgets here in the next couple of months. So as I said, Governor Whitmer, she's going to rely on these projections as she showcases her budget priorities during the State of the State address later on in January. And according to the estimates, good news, we can expect an increase of approximately $591 million in the general fund in the state of Michigan, and an increase of approximately $319 million in the school aid fund for fiscal year 25-26 compared to the previous fiscal year. Again, just estimates, but these will be used as budgets are proposed in the very near future. And also, I'd just like to highlight during the conference, they also discuss students in the state of Michigan. They are projecting for the state to lose about 7,000 students this upcoming year, which sounds devastating, but in actuality, that is lower than what it's been the last couple of years, so I guess it's the way you look at it. But yeah, about 7,000 students. Again, just projections, but again, the student piece will also be an important part as the budget cycle continues, so stay tuned on that. Couple things I did forward to all of the board members today regarding PA 152 as well as the 2024 rules for Title IX being vacated. Just a quick overview. PA 152 is the law that dictates costs public employers pay regarding health care costs. The changes to PA 152 were headed to the governor for signature, was expected to be signed. However, we have learned the bill has been held in the clerk's office and has not been presented to the governor yet. We're still awaiting more information, but wanted to share this information tonight. Again, we want to provide the best possible solutions for healthcare for all our employees. The tough part about this bill is once you have an established budget and then mid-year you get hit with a 7% increase in cost of to the districts, it caused a lot of concern amongst many district administrations and boards. Again, we're still going to be waiting for more information regarding will it be signed, will it not be signed, but just rough estimates, that 7%, that would equal to about $85 per student increase in the costs with health care for the remaining of the school year. So stay tuned. More information will be coming, but I wanted to make sure you had that today. And then also on Friday, a federal court issued an order vacating the 2024 Title IX rules and regulations in their entirety and declaring them unlawful. Based on what we know, the 2020 Title IX regulations will now apply moving forward. We are certainly awaiting more information and guidance from our policy provider, Neola, as well as from Troon, and we will update the board as soon as that information becomes available. We expect plenty of information to come on that, and especially the guidance that we're going to need to follow those new changes moving forward. So again, I will keep you posted once we hear a little more information on that. I'd like to draw your attention to the important dates in your packet. Hard to believe, but next week in this building, final exams for the first semester will begin. And with that, next Thursday, January 23rd, our first semester ends. Friday is a well-deserved Records Day for our staff, and no students will be in school on that day. Again, that's Friday the 24th. And then the second semester will start on Monday, January 27th, and we start going downhill on the school year. A couple other very important dates that or at least one important date that I know Tamara shared with you today. Vicksburg Pathways High School will hold their winter graduation on Wednesday, January 29th at 6 o'clock in the PAC. Hopefully all of you can join us for that important day, and if you can, I know Kelly would love to have board members help present diplomas on that evening. So if you're available, please let us know, please let Tamara know, and we'll let Kelly know. And I know the high school's gearing up too for winter homecoming, and that's the week of February 3rd through February 7th. Lots of festivities that week, and then at halftime of the boys' basketball game that evening, we'll have all the homecoming festivities, including King and Queen, Prince and Princess,
Yeah.
and then reps from the freshman and sophomore classes as well. It's a fun night. Hopefully you can join us for that great day. And don't forget, the Rotary is selling Strive raffle tickets. You could win an eighth of a cow. Those are $10 a piece. Steve and I would be more than happy to sell you as many tickets as you'd like. So see us. The drawing will be held that evening on February 7th.
And the Strive program is really a wonderful program for seniors who may need a little encouragement to make it to the finish line. And they do that in collaboration with the Rotary Club, and it's really well done.
So yeah, all the proceeds from that raffle will help support scholarships for those students moving forward. So we certainly appreciate your support with that. And just a couple other quick things. VHS Pre-Festival Band Concert will be held on February 13th in the PAC. Come on around for that. And then the annual Athletic Booster Bounce will be held at Indian Run Golf Club on Saturday, February 15th. If you're interested in tickets for that, you can get them ahead of time, or they will allow you just to pay at the door. So, more information to come. And Dave, that will be my report.
Great. We move on. Next item agenda is Budget and Finance Report. Steve Goss.
Okay, just two items here. I'll go through fairly quickly this evening. Got included in the packet budget progress report for the general fund, and this is through the end of December. And I'll go through it fairly quickly and just make a couple of quick observations. Revenue year to date stood at $11,925,000, or just over 32% of the initially projected budget for the year. And on the expenditure side, you can see that total instructional expenditures totaled just under $8.1 million. Support services, I won't read through the breakdown, but support services totaled $7.3 million. And then you can see there's a breakdown for athletics, community services, and total expenditures year-to-date were just over $16 million at $16,033,000. Last month, I spent a little bit of time going through an analysis, kind of comparing where we were year-to-date this year compared to last year and highlighting some of those differences. I'm not going to go through that in a lot of detail again here this evening, but when we flip over to the next page of that report, we had talked about the timing of payrolls and how, as we are a biweekly payer, there are 2 months during the year where there is a third payroll. And depending on when those fall, that can shift from month to month, and that can create some variances that stand out. And so that one of the 3 payroll months in the current 24-25 year was the month of November. Last year, the third payroll was in the month of December. And so I just want to point out that our salaries and benefits year-to-date stood at $11,918,504, and that compares to $11,220,437 for the same period last year. Now, so that's just in terms of raw dollars, we're about $700,000 higher than we were for this time last year. Last month, if you remember, that difference was about a little over, it was almost $1.75 million. And when you think about a typical payroll and the benefits that go along with that, a typical payroll is around $1 million. So you can kind of see that relationship reversed between the 2 months, and that's what I would have expected, and so I was glad to see that. But just taking a quick look at expenditures by object, salaries and benefits totaled 11.9. Purchase services were at $1,477,000, supplies at $1,311,000, capital outlay stood at $1,233,000, and other expenses at $92,303. So total expenditures year to date, just over $16 million, and that's kind of it in a nutshell. Are there any questions or comments on that?
A lot of that difference was capital outlay.
Yeah, a big chunk of that, for sure.
The buses, primarily.
Yep, yeah, primarily buses.
Buses
correct.
and trucks.
Yep. All right, we'll continue to, continue to work on budget amendments, and, there's a number of adjustments that are going to happen on both the revenue and the expenditure side. So stay tuned for that. Hoping to try to push that through as fast as I can, but it takes some dedicated time to be able to do that. And if no other questions or comments on that, I will just switch over to the investment holdings. And that list of investments continues to get smaller. We no longer have any Treasury securities. The final Treasury that was being held in the 2022 Building and Site Fund matured at the end of December. So all of these investments are pooled investment funds designed for governmental units. We use MyLAF, which is the Michigan Liquid Asset Fund, and that's managed by PFM Asset Management. So you can see here that I have it broken down by fund, and we continue to have about $3.4 million of investments in the 2022 Building and Site Fund. 2024 Building and Site Fund stands at $6.9 million. We also have not quite $1.1 million of debt service funds that are invested. And then finally, the general fund investment stood at $3,271,000. Now, these are separate from our normal checking accounts, essentially. Okay, so we earn interest on our checking accounts as well, but we earn a higher rate of interest through MyLAF. Those rates, as we've been talking about, have been coming down, but they're still reasonably attractive. Depending on the 2 classes of funds that we invest in, we're, right around 4.5%. And we're going to continue to see that come down, although, good news or bad news, depending on how you look at it, It seems like the pace of interest rate cuts maybe is slowing down. I read an opinion from one analyst today that argues there may not be any rate cuts in 2025. So we'll see how that pans out, but we'll continue to take advantage of that investment income as long as we can. So any questions on that?
I would just like to, again, commend you for, I think a lot of what you have to do is management of cash flow when we get it and know when it has to be drawn down. And to take advantage of investment has made such a substantial difference. You've got $516,000, fiscal year to date. We get, I think, around $1 million in federal funds a year or a little.
Yeah, I mean,
So we're almost
excluding-
as making as much in interest in a year, which can pay for people to be in the classroom.
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and so, yeah, we try to maximize that. A few things I just point out, each of those funds has a designated purpose. So
Right.
investment income in the bond funds or the debt retirement funds are not available for those purposes.
Right.
But they do help us stretch our dollars.
Well, and the cost of construction material when the initial estimates on doing things in the buildings goes up.
Yes,
And that interest
absolutely.
helps
Yep.
defray some of that. So I commend you for that. And I know you're looking for any advantage of where we can make use of the taxpayers' dollars well. I know even the credit card that you use for, to
The
help.
purchase card, yep.
The purchase cards, they reduce the amount of overhead and the amount of bureaucracy for people to make those purchases, and we get a little bit,
Yeah, we
not
do
a
get
lot,
a
but
little
we
bit
get a
of a
little bit
rebate.
back.
That rebate, depending on the year, 12 to 15,000, so it's not a lot. There was a time, before interest rates went up, where that was almost larger than our investment income. But thankfully, we're able to generate a lot more income now. The other thing, though, the purchase card, the program does for us is it pushes out our cash flow a little bit longer. So if you're in a borrowing mode, then you can, you're offsetting some of your borrowing costs. And in this case, it just gives us additional days where we can keep funds invested. So
Yeah.
every little bit helps.
Yes. All right. Anything else for Steve from anybody? Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Brush and Mr. Hawkins.
This is great. Matt thought we were starting at 7:30. We were going to have to talk really fast to fit it in within an hour.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time. I don't know, board, if you guys want to move up front so you can see there, or you can see the screen here. It's like I'm back in the classroom. So I'm gonna show you some data. It's up to you where you guys want to sit.
I'm on your, I guess.
Stay here. No, I can see it.
Matt and I always talk about this too. If you have a question, someone else probably has that same question, you can just ask it now. The last thing I want you to do, I'll move back there, I'm the worst, I'm sorry. Yeah. The last thing we want you guys to do is to focus on that question and not hear everything we're saying tonight, if that makes sense. So Matt's going to do his best. He's going to put me on a leash so I don't move too far from this microphone. So welcome to Vicksburg High School. Yeah. The title of tonight's presentation is Data-Driven Decisions, Shaping Our School's Success. At the high school, we always start with our district's mission and vision. Our mission is to maximize the success and potential of all students. Our vision is that all students will graduate college and career ready.
Like every year, we have a lot to be grateful for and to celebrate. We want to share that with you. 2024 U.S. News and World Report once again ranked us as one of the best high schools in the nation. They rank in 6 different categories: college readiness at 30%, state assessment performance at 20%, underserved student performance at 10%, college curriculum breadth at 10%, and graduation rate at 10% as well. We're also proud that Vicksburg High School was recognized as a great school in 2024 College Success Award winner. This places us among the top 6% of high schools nationwide, as we were one of only 1,436 schools across the country to receive this award. The award celebrates public high schools that excel in preparing students for college enrollment and success. We also received some additional recognition for our advanced placement program that we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation.
So one of the revamped courses at VHS this school year is VBTV, formerly TV production. It's a dynamic class that captures the essence of high school life. Students cover a wide range of activities, including sports, musicals, clubs, scheduled changes, and staff interviews. Here are some highlights of the first semester.
Start moving. I'm sorry burning my lips, just so you know.
I'm so excited. What's something that students so scared
Wow. I already feel my body temperature, like,
And Grace,
yeah. Oh,
Bazinga, those look spicy.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Kaden, I was fighting for my life.
what goals do you have for yourself moving forward in the future as a runner or college or even for the season?
Well, so now that the season's almost over, I have one more meet left. I'd like to get a new PR, which is some 16 minutes, and that's just a big goal of mine that I've had all year.
Oh my goodness. My lips are burning.
Looking back on your 28 years of teaching, what are you most proud of, and what advice would you give to your younger self?
I'm probably most proud of my students. It's been, I don't know, thousands of students now, and they're doing amazing things. And when I see them in the world and I catch up to them, I'm proud of them. They do incredible things.
Wowza.
And so VBTV has been great. It highlights our school. I think they mainly started that course so they could give me the hottest wings ever and burn my mouth and then videotape it so, you know, that they could just poke some fun at
I'm
me.
going to ask you a bunch of questions while you couldn't talk, and your mouth was numb. I told Adam, I said, if we're going to talk about VBTV, we've got to tell him about Gabe. That's Gabe Branham up on the screen with me there. Gabe and I, over the last couple of years, have got to know each other really well. And at first, for all the wrong reasons. Gabe was definitely a struggling student. He was new to VHS last year. Last year, he passed only 4 of his classes. He had 41 absences. He was referred for truancy 3 times, and he had 4 discipline referrals. This year, Gabe has a total of 4 absences. He's passing all his classes. He has no discipline referrals. And when you ask him, why the change? How did you improve yourself like this? Without hesitation, he says, being the lead editor at VBTV. So, you know, elective choices matter, classes matter, and how we design them. And this really brought Gabe right out of his shell. He says he feels like more a part of the culture. He wants to be here, and that has led to him doing some exciting things with that class, and most importantly, designing a future for himself.
This slide looks at the daily attendance rate. Before COVID, VHS was consistently at 95% on average daily attendance. During COVID, it dipped to 91, 92%, and I'm not even sure how accurate that is because we had virtual learning and we were closed, and I mean, it's crazy. It wouldn't surprise me if it was, 5 or 10% even lower than that. Over the last 2 years, we've been rebounding, and I'm happy to say second semester last year and now even first semester this year, we're right back up to 94% attendance.
So to do that, we've done a few different things, kind of minor things, but big things in other ways as well. We've instituted an attendance incentive program. So once a month, students with 2 or a few absences, names go into a drawing, and their name gets pulled, and they get to come down and pick a prize. Now, this isn't like, a Tootsie Roll. This is Yetis and Under Armour sweatshirts, and word is spread, right? So these are great prizes, and some kids have added that to their goal to at least get their name into that drawing at least once. Attendance codes have been made consistent across the buildings and consistently communicated to all stakeholders. Students and parents have demonstrated a better understanding of attendance policy, and this has resulted in an improved overall attendance percentage. So we're excited about that. I was telling my secretary, Krista Rees, the other day that we seem to be more on the same page as a building community. So parents understand that if your student needs to have a medical exemption, you gotta have a note. But if they call in and excuse them, that still counts for their total of days missed. So little things like that have really helped us improve attendance, and that's an exciting and positive thing.
And it's important for college and career readiness. Most kids don't make it in college because they fail to attend class. A lot of students struggle in the career because they miss work.
In the same vein, attendance has improved kind of the same, discipline has kind of improved the same way. Last year we had about 418 referrals. That's ASVP, Saturday school, in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension. This year, or 2020, 223. This year we're about 321, tracking to be about 321. So that's a vast improvement. And again, I think it's a testament to some of the things that we've done and tried to improve on. Another way that we do that is we have some community groups built right into the school that students can join. Student Senate coordinates multiple blood drives each year. This involves organizing, helping with setup, finding and checking in donors, and each donation saves 3 lives. Those are always highly involved events. Students want to go donate blood, they want to be a part of that, and that's exciting. NHS teamed with DECA this year to hold their annual personal care and food drive for South County around Thanksgiving. It's a well-organized event, and all the items collected are in areas of need. This year we collected more than 3,000 food and personal care items to donate. Aim Higher helped the VHS students celebrate the 12 days before winter break, collecting items for the SVCA, Bronson Children's Hospital, and the unhoused of Kalamazoo. So for the 12 days before winter break, Aim Higher came up with a theme for each day. So it might be like, dress like the Grinch, wear your Christmas socks, dress like Frosty, and then to participate, you had to bring in an item that corresponded with that theme. Our students really did a nice job. I mean, their donation boxes were filled every day, and we had a lot of fun doing it as well. Last year, we had our second Senior Day of Service. This is a dedicated time where the seniors class gives back to the Vicksburg community. Aim Higher and NHS helped organize our work sites for the seniors, and we went to our elementary schools and did landscaping, and we went to some of our senior citizens' homes, and we did yard work, and in fact, one of our students even noticed that the grass was a little long, and went and knocked on the door and asked if he could fire up the lawnmower and mowed this person's lawn for him. We went to the historical village, and probably 76 truckloads of leaves and debris that cleaned out of there, making that look great. So again, this is just another way for our senior class to say, hey, thank you to the community of Vicksburg and all that they've done to support them throughout their time here.
It's a great day of camaraderie because we order pizza, and we've been blessed the last 2 years because it's been nice that day. So they sit out on the football field as a big class.
Well, we also get them to show up with donuts.
Yeah, that's true too, donuts as well. We are building on last year's priorities for this school year. We are developing a strong PLC, and we continue to strengthen social emotional learning at VHS. We are emphasizing high-performing collaborative teams and action to improve results.
We're continuing social emotional learning at Vicksburg High School, and the nice thing about this is this team, I think I've shown you a different list for the last 3 years. We have the same team members for the first time in 3 years, and this is a group of people who are dedicated and passionate about social emotional learning and helping Lori Gordon, our social emotional learning coordinator, implement great things for our students where that is concerned. These are the 5 core competencies of SEL. They come from CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic Social and Emotional Learning. This is a nationally known research-based group. All of our work with SEL is aligned to the CASEL framework. And I want to just point out a couple of things and use my example of Gabe Branham again. So by taking that class and by us doing some things to kind of help Mr. Lindeman integrate some of these social emotional learning practices in class, Gabe found a group where he could become more self-aware. He knew what his passions were all of a sudden, and then that helped him want to develop some social awareness. People got to know him, he got to know them. That helped him develop some relationship skills, and because of those things and because of that passion, he began to make responsible decisions. started going to class, started turning in his work, and wants to be here. So we're going to continue to do that in some of the other courses that we have and some of the electives that we're going to be able to offer very soon.
We also survey students 3 to 4 times a year. Our recent student survey reveals many students feel supported in their learning. So the question is, my school gives me multiple assessments to check my understanding of what was taught. I'm happy to say 81% of students either agreed or strongly agreed to this statement. The survey also highlighted that students feel challenged by the curriculum. The question is, my school provides me with a challenging curriculum and learning experiences. 75% of students agreed or strongly agreed with this. It's also important to know only 3% disagreed or strongly disagreed with this statement. An area we continue to work on is student self-efficacy. We've been working on that for a while. The question that we ask our students is, in my school, I feel comfortable asking for help. Unfortunately, right now, we're still around 47% of students agreeing or strongly agreeing with that statement. We need to allow students to understand failure is a part of success, and then when they do fail, it's okay to ask for help. And so that's just another goal we have at VHS.
Is this academic help, or is this like, I'm struggling in my life help?
So this in the contents is school, because it says in my school. Now we do have a panorama survey that will be a little bit more explicit, where if it's outside of school or in school, but this is just for school help. Yeah. Great question, Stephanie. Now we get to examine our goals. I told you I was a former math teacher. I love looking at data. This is a time where we make a deep dive into our data. Last year we developed 4 goals. We still look at other data points, but tonight the data we review will be connected to those 4 goals. And so what are our 4 goals? Our first goal is to reduce the failure rate. Our second goal is to increase the percentage of students pursuing and being successful in the most rigorous curriculum in each program. That's our CTE enrollments, that's our AP enrollments. Our third goal is to increase student achievement on local, state, and national high-stake assessments, kind of like the SAT or AP exams. And then our fourth goal is to increase the percentage of graduates who experience success in post-secondary learning. So, reducing the failure rate. We've talked about it. This is our 4th or 5th year of having tutorial at VHS. Tutorial is a 30-minute dedicated block held every Tuesday and Thursday. The primary purpose of tutorial is to provide opportunities for reteaching and for students to complete missing assignments. Additionally, tutorial serves as a versatile time for enrichment activities, rehearsal, class, and club meetings. We have a slide here. And this talks about the number or the percentage of students during tutorial who were signed out that have at least one failing class. And I like pointing this out because you can see in December, we have some great data. We're mid to high 90s. Right here towards the end, right before break, we're signing out those students. Kind of in the middle, we have some high numbers, and then you also see some dips, and people are always wondering, what about those dips, or why aren't we at 100%? Well, to be at 100%, we need to have 100% student attendance and 100% teacher attendance. So sometimes teachers are gone, so they can't stamp kids. Sometimes students are gone, so they can't go to tutorial. Especially at the beginning of the year, like 9/10, 9/17, 9/27, people are like, Adam, are you sure you want to show that data? I mean, it's right around 50% of students being stamped. We have class meetings. And so one of the things, they can't go to tutorial because they're in our class meetings. And what's great about that is they're not missing instruction time. So before tutorial, we would still have class meetings. It would be first hour, second hour, third hour. So they'd be missing chemistry or algebra 2 or geometry. Now they're missing tutorial. Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah, real quick, Adam, can you just make sure everybody understands what it means to be signed out?
Yeah. So if a student is stamped for tutorial, I'll pick Mrs. DeConing. So my son has Mrs. DeConing. Let's say there's a paper that he's just struggling to write. She can stamp him, and during that 30-minute block, after fourth hour, he would go to her class for individualized help. And it could be anything from they were sick the day before, maybe they failed a test and they need reteaching. It could be anything. And they would just get a stamp from that teacher. Questions on tutorial? And so you'll see too, one day we had a pull-out, and so all of our math department was out for that particular day, which is, it's just fun. So it's like when you think about pull-outs and all those things, man, maybe we shouldn't do it on Tuesday or Thursday, you know? But it's hard to do them on Mondays and Fridays because of subs, and it's just, you know, it's one thing after another. Yeah, but it's really, a lot of staff appreciate just the meetings because now they're not missing students from instruction time.
If you know anything about our staff, that time when we were polling them for meetings was extremely frustrating, and rightfully so. I mean, because then you have a whole class of students, and let's say you have, you know, we have a sophomore meeting, and you have one junior in that class. Well, now you have one student in that class. So that not only do all the sophomores miss out on instruction, so does that one junior who needs it for that day. Was there any other questions?
Yeah.
I'm looking at September 10th. I mean, school was only in session for what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And kids are already getting an F?
So, yeah, great question. So that first, let's say you have one missing assignment, and that's what it is, and it's just that
Right
one.
on that 2-week mark,
Yeah.
you're starting to enter assignments, so if you miss it, you probably have an F.
Yeah. And you'll see, it starts off low, you get towards the middle, and it gets high, and then as you get closer to the end of the marking period or semester, it gets lower and lower and lower, just because there's more grades that get put in. But also just, you know, sometimes parents won't check for a couple days, or students won't check for a couple days. Oh, I have that done, or I was absent and I forgot to turn it in, and so that happens. Great question. What happens if someone does fail? I'm happy to say this was the lowest amount of classes we had in the past 3 years. So that means more and more students are passing throughout the school year. This past summer, 58 classes were successfully completed during summer school. And they were in core subjects: math, English, social studies, science. We also this summer hosted our first 8th grade camp for math and English students. We had it before COVID, but since COVID, we've been primarily working on students who have been failing classes at the high school. So we had 12 8th grade students who had struggled in math and English throughout middle school. We signed them up for this math camp and this English camp, and I'm happy to say every single one of those students passed their class for first marking period. So we're going to be tracking that data for this semester as well.
Our second goal is to increase the percentage of students pursuing and being successful in the most rigorous curriculum in each program. This is where we focus on advanced placement, career and technical enrollments, and passing grades. So CTE classes offer a wide range of benefits that prepare students for success in both their careers and personal lives. These benefits include hands-on learning, career readiness, skill development, exploration of career interests, and networking opportunities. You'll notice the pictures on the slide of our County Career Connect Center. This will be our CTE Center opening next fall. We're excited about the opportunities this presents our CTE students and the opportunities that it presents VHS. So we look forward to developing those and working on those as well. 6 years ago, we introduced you to AP Capstone. This is our 4th group of AP research students. These students, along with their teachers, helped lay the foundation for AP Capstone. I'm excited to share that we have been awarded AP Honor Roll for the 5th time in Vicksburg High School history. To achieve AP Honor Roll, you must attain the following benchmarks. Set a college culture. At least 40% of the graduating class must take at least one AP exam. Earn college credit. At least 25% of the graduating class must earn credit on at least one AP exam. College optimization. At least 2% or more of the graduating class must take 5 or more AP exams during high school. So the AP Honor Roll is separated into 4 levels. There's platinum, gold, and silver. Gold, silver, and bronze. We were bronze this year. So next year we'll be aiming for that silver criteria. To do that, the one area, if we go to the next slide, that we need to increase is college culture. So what we'll need to do is go from 45 to 50% of our class of 2025 experience at least one AP course before graduation. If you look up there, we're at college credit, we're at 33%, we're silver right now, and college optimization, we're at 11% and just barely in that gold realm. We are also given the AP Access Award. This is an additional recognition given to schools when the percentage of underrepresented or low-income students accessing the school's AP program is the same as or greater than the percentage in the school's graduating class. So what's exciting about that is we have had the mantra that we're an AP for all building. So what that recognition shows us is that's working, and we have students of all different walks of life and struggles accessing this curricular, or this rigorous curriculum, which is exciting because it's challenging them and pushing them. There are several benefits of AP, but students are more likely to succeed in college when enrolled in an AP class. So 85% of colleges and universities report that a student's AP experience favorably impacts admissions decisions within that institution. Research shows students who receive a score of 2 on their AP exams are ready for college work. Students who take AP courses and exams are much more likely than their peers to complete a degree on time. We have 20 live AP course offerings at Vicksburg High School. When I look at that list, that's pretty impressive. We have a wide variety of courses that we can offer, and having this many offerings is a direct result of our desire to provide AP for all VHS students. This way we cover many interests and make AP more appealing to more students. Last year, VHS students passed 61% of their AP exams. Currently, we are administering 399 AP exams this spring, which is a record for this building. We still need to sign students up for AP Economics, so we're thinking about 20 more AP signups. It is exciting to have this many enrollments in AP, but we would like to be closer to 60-70% of our students taking AP courses. So right now we're at 45, so we'll keep working towards that goal and trying to achieve that end. But if you look at that data, that's pretty encouraging. More students signing up for more classes, and yet more students are passing or getting 3s and getting college credit on those exams.
Yeah, it's crazy. When Kevin was the principal and I was the assistant principal, I remember like 15, 16, celebrating going from 347 to 567 enrollments. And then having more exams and then thinking, holy cow, if we have more exams, that means more kids taking the test, and then what's going to happen to our passing rate? And to think that we were, 43, 52, and now we're at 61%. That's just amazing. To Matt's point, when you go back to the previous slide and you look at this, bronze, 45%, I think we have a pretty good shot at hitting silver because we're just having more kids in AP classes. And so that's just another thing from COVID. Our enrollments dipped. Our enrollment in high school dipped, and then our enrollments in AP classes dipped. And I'm happy to see that that's rebounding right now. Any questions on that slide?
That is also a huge testament to our AP instructors.
Yeah.
They just do a phenomenal job working with all kinds of students. We've got a great staff all the way around, and those classes aren't easy to teach. They're about as easy to teach as they are to take. So this staff has done a great job encouraging and helping those students get to that great benchmark.
And they're not cheap to run either, the professional development, the time that it takes. And so we really appreciate the foundation's help in getting the staff trained, because the things change, and then they need to be retrained, and then teachers retire, and now you've got to hire new teachers and train new teachers to take their spots. So it's a great team effort.
Mr. I, do you have a question?
I did, but they started talking. You can go first.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I missed the distinction. You had college culture and you had students passing. What was that top?
So this right here,
Yeah.
college culture. So that's the senior class. To hit silver, you need to hit 50% of the senior class enrolled in an AP exam or an AP class.
I see.
At least
Yep.
one.
Just one. That's
Yep.
enrollment.
For that
Yep.
one. Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome. Mr. I?
Yeah, if you can go back to that one slide. Yeah, you might have kind of touched on this, Adam, just now. When I'm looking at the numbers, I'm just kind of, maybe it's not a question, I'm just kind of curious how maybe the general enrollment is, say, for example, in the 15-16 school year compared to the 24-25 school year. Is that remained the same, or has that changed or fluctuated, or what is that like?
I
Of
would,
course, that affects how the numbers are.
yeah, I would guess we were probably 780-ish, and right now we're 730 to 740. If I, what do you think?
Relatively stable.
Over 800.
Yeah, we could have been, yeah.
Okay.
We're definitely less students now than we were back in the 15, 16.
Okay. Which kind of was, the state losing students, like
Yeah.
he was talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, great question.
Okay.
All right. So our third goal is to increase student achievement on local, state, and national high-stake assessments. Last year, Matt and I presented this data. So this is the class of 2025, our current seniors. Their sophomore year, they took the PSAT 10 and scored a 932 composite. And I remember last year, or 2 years ago when we presented this, I was like, holy cow, 932, that makes me a little nervous. The state average was a 901. They then took the SAT last spring and had a composite average of 1015. They increased 83 points, which is the largest increase we've ever seen since we went to the SAT. It's a great achievement. The state increased from a 901 to a 945, so they only increased 44 points. College readiness, we saw gains as well, which normally you do not see a gain in college readiness. So let's talk about what college readiness is. If you score a 480 on the EBRW section or the English section, you're considered college ready. If you score a 530 on the math section, you're considered college ready. So if you score a 480 and a 530 on both sections or higher, you're considered college ready in both sections or college ready. That means that you have a 75% chance of getting a C or higher in a college class your first year. So that's where college readiness comes from. It's ironic to me that we're a high school and kids are taking this test the spring of their junior year to determine if they're college ready, and basically that's how you judge if we're doing a good job. And so as sophomores, when they took it, the PSAT 10, 38% of our students were college ready. They hit both benchmarks for math and English. Compared to the state average, it was 29%. When we took that SAT the spring of their junior year, last spring, it went from 38 to 39, which is great. And the state average, like most schools, it fell a little bit. It went down to 25%. So 39% of our students were deemed college ready from this current senior class. And this kind of compares to Matt's slide where he talked about our AP scores. And so what we're looking at here is the class of 2017 all the way through the class of 2025, their scores compared to the state. And what you're seeing is you're seeing a decline in VHS scores. That class of 2018 was great. They had a 1072. The state average was 1,007. And then you look, the class of 2025 was a 1015 and the state average was a 945. I look at this and I just love seeing that how much bigger higher our scores are than the state average. And something I would tell you guys, I don't know if scores are going down because kids aren't as prepared, but this new SAT is digital and it's also adaptive. And so how that works is when you took the old paper pencil test 3 or 4 years ago, you could guess on it. And you get 25% of the questions right. And if you had a great guessing day, you might end up with a 670 on your SAT. If you had a poor guessing day, you might have a 610. Well, this adaptive test works if you're crushing this test, that first module, you do really, really well on it, you're going to get a hard second module. And that works both for the English and the math section. On that first module, if you guess and you get 25% of them right, you're going to get a really, really easy second module. And if you guess on that and only get 25% of them right, you're going to have an SAT composite of 400. So why I think we're seeing the composite go down so much is you have a certain percentage of students guessing on the SAT, and 3 or 4 years ago, they were guessing, and their composite was, let's say, 650, and now it's 400. And like when Kevin and I were when he was principal, we never saw anything lower than maybe a 610, and now you will see 400s. And that just means a student guessed. So I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing some of our scores go down, because our college readiness hasn't changed that much.
What year did they adapt it?
That was 3 years, was it 3 years ago? Yeah, 3 years ago.
This will be the third year.
Yeah, and if you look like the class of 2023, class of 2022, class of 2021, those data points, it was optional. And so not everybody was taking it. So like especially that 2021 and 2022, you were not having a lot of, yeah. And
if I remember right, our participation percentage was pretty high compared to the rest of the area schools. So we tested quite a few more students than some of our counterparts there.
Yeah, so especially like that 2022, we had 1,008, and I thought it was like 80% of our students took it, whereas when I looked at the percentage of kids that had taken it and kind of approximation of how many students there were in the state of Michigan, and it was like 60%.
These numbers compared to the state average really show good performance, but how do we compare to schools in our demographic in our area?
Thanks for asking that.
That is, what a great question. So,
we didn't pay him to ask that question.
Oh my goodness. So,
were you implying the SAT now is mandatory for these kids?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Who determines the adapted test? Is that voted on the state education board or?
I think it was actually SAT just said, we're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think the reason they did that is to try to not reward kids for guessing. You know, it's we want to see what you know, right? We don't want to see how well you can guess. So I think that's why they did that.
And on top of that, when it went to digital, every question is different. So what they were really concerned with, I'm sure you've seen people have been caught, famous children have been caught cheating, right? And so what they're doing now is, I mean, they're checking everything, birth date, driver's license, you're taking it in your school, and then if Matt and I are in the same room taking an SAT, we have completely different questions.
If you're finding a way to successfully cheat on this test, you're spending your abilities on something you shouldn't be spending.
Right.
Because it's really difficult.
Now, our expectation is to do way better than the state. How do we do compared to similar schools to us demographically? So this is the student demographic calculation. It looks at 4 characteristics. It looks at the number of students enrolled in the school, the student-to-teacher ratio, the percentage of students receiving free and reduced lunch, and the amount of money the school spends per student. And it takes those 30 schools and puts you in a group. So we're that 30th school right below Petoskey. You're going to see some recognizable schools. There's Paw Paw, Plainwell, Otsego, Edwardsburg. They're all in our conference. And then we've got Gull Lake, Harper Creek, Marshall, Wayland, Hamilton, Lakeshore. They're all within an hour away. The main reason I like bringing up this calculation is these are all great high schools. I would send any of my kids to these high schools. So how are we doing on the SAT compared to these schools? And so now I'm going to throw out a different term, proficiency. And so what the state is doing in this graphic is they're looking at students scoring proficient or advanced on the SAT. Proficient is within 20 points of college ready. And so for the class of 2025, 49% of our students scored proficient or advanced. When you look at these 29 other high schools, they were at 46%, and the state was at 38%. And now we can look at the 30 closest high schools to Vicksburg High School. You'll see we're still at 49%, the state's still at 38% scoring proficient or advanced on the SAT, but the 30 closest high schools are scoring at 36%. One other thing that the state looks at is the student progress. And this is students staying proficient or advanced, and then students within a 3-year time period making gains to get to proficient or advanced. And I'm happy to say that at Vicksburg High School, 51% of our students are making that progress, compared to 45% of those 29 other high schools that were similar to us demographically, and compared to 45% of the state. Does anybody have any questions on those charts? It's always fun when we throw out composite, we throw out college readiness, and then we throw out proficiency.
So, I'm looking at 51%, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
what this past year. 51% is, what is that number representing again?
Yeah. That's 51% is representing the percentage of students in our current senior class that scored proficient or advanced on the SAT last spring.
Okay.
Yep.
So 49% didn't.
Yes.
Now it's better than the average similar schools and of course the state, but that's still a lot of kids.
So great question. And so that's, yeah, when I kind of brought that up at the beginning, we're giving a college entrance exam to all of our high school students. And they start getting it in 8th grade, and then they take it again in 9th grade, they take it again in 10th grade, and then they take it for all the marbles in 11th grade. And there's learning that happens from mid-April, May and June, and then all the way through their senior year. Like, I know if we gave it to them at the end of their senior year, they'd score even higher. I don't know how fair it is to give that type of test to students to say if you're successful or not. And it's also, it's like the state saying, well, SAT's got this. We're not going to reinvent our own test for everybody and give it to them because they wouldn't know how to do it. Yes, Dan?
Another way I always thought about this is we see these numbers and we think of them as basic skills tests, but they're not basic skills tests. Other states have basic skills tests, but we have a college readiness test that we bought as a state.
That is our state assessment.
It already existed.
Yeah.
If we had a basic skills test, which is how we see that number, when we just see 51% of the students are proficient, on a basic skills test, I'm confident we'd be at 90% or better. It's a different kind of test. When students take this test, if they get half the questions right, they've got a very good score. But that's a failing score in my class. And so students feel really beat up by this test because they're getting half of them wrong, and still they're proficient. They're still college ready if they're getting half of them wrong on the actual test in the room. So we basically misuse the test as a state. We all have agreed to do it that way, and so the numbers work. But it's not a basic skills test. It never has been.
And we know, too, that all students aren't going to college.
Yeah.
They're not. So our state test is a college entrance exam, and half of them might go right into the world of work when they leave it. So, again, it's difficult on us, like Dan was talking about, and I'm glad that we're speaking about this right now, because these are things that you as board members should know.
So how do you know what you're supposed to improve on?
So this is like what, yeah, no, and it sounds, it's for me, it's almost like when I'm coaching. My job as a coach was to win the game and make better students, better athletes, better people. That's our job as principals. All right, we're comparing ourselves against the state. We're comparing ourselves against all of these similar high schools. How are we doing? And then kind of like what Matt talked about, we have lots of stories about students like Gabe at the high school. We're preparing our students to be better individuals.
And unfortunately, our state doesn't measure those things.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes up with a very viable way to measure those things, I'll applaud them 1,000%. And then the other thing, we have to realize is there's a lot of other things that go on in high school other than college entrance exams and other than academics. But I think that's why our goals are set the way they are. we're trying to reduce the failure rate. Well, I guarantee you our kids that are proficient or advanced on the SAT aren't the kids that are failing. So that's why we present the way that we do with this presentation, so that you can see. So here's the side of the students who are struggling. This is what we're doing for them. State really doesn't do a great job of measuring what's going on with those kids, but we are. Here are our advanced kids. Here's what we're doing to make sure that they continue to be advanced and have the opportunities they need to have.
This is one last data point that probably had just more questions, like, 39% of our students were considered college ready. We talked about over here, 51% were considered proficient, within 20 points of college ready. How are we doing? It's never as high as I would like it to be, but you have to compare yourself to other schools. Plainwell's a great school. Otsego's a great school. Edwardsburg's a great school. Edwardsburg's at 45, we're at 39. Otsego, Plainwell's 32, Otsego's 30. Pawpaw's a great school. It just so happens they were at 22% for last year. And so it's just one of those things where it's about building connections and talking with students and then convincing them, some of them, that it doesn't hurt to do your best attempt on this SAT. Because it's a lot of work. You're here until 1 p.m. working your butt off, and sometimes you don't score what you want. But that's life. The title of tonight's presentation was Data-Driven Decisions Shaping Our School's Success. As you've seen and heard, all that we do here at VHS is directed to that end. We are creating connections to our community through our outreach programs and groups. We are unlocking potential in the classroom by challenging our students academically while providing them opportunities to explore their interests. Our culture at VHS consistently points to building our students into successful, happy, young adults. Wouldn't want to leave you hanging, because we talked about last year. And we said, remember how nervous we were when we presented our PSAT 10 data? Well, we're nervous again. So this is our current juniors. They took the PSAT 10 last spring, and they had a composite average of 918. You compare that to the state, was an 883. We then had them take it in the fall, and they scored a 953. Something that's interesting that pulls back all this information, look at that state average was a 962. They went from an 883 to a 962. The reason they did that is that test they give to their elite students.
We require all our students to take a fall composite as a form of practice. They don't.
Yeah, and so a lot of the students that take that fall test are trying to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship. And so we bring in everybody because we know it doesn't hurt them to do well, and it opens the doors. I've seen so many just inspirational videos where students thought I was never going to go to college, and then they get their scores and they're like, oh, I can go to college.
We've had that happen with,
Yeah.
some of our own students. They walk into that test thinking, man, there's no way, and they come out with a 1,300, and all of a sudden all these doors are open.
Yeah.
So, again, testament to our staff, how they've all jumped on board with making this test, which isn't the best test, like we talked about, a goal, so that we all band together and help as many students as we can.
Yes.
So the pre-test, the individual gets to score. I'm assuming that if people want to improve either seminars or
Yeah. Oh, great question.
Improves how to take the test better.
So what's nice is students can get onto College Board, and they have all the release questions. Our teachers, starting second semester, talk about questions on the SAT. They review. We bring in the Sycamore Learning Center in March. It's a test prep, but it's not just for the SAT. It's for all tests. So it gives them opportunities to improve. If they're going to get their any type of teacher certification test down the road or electrical certification test, it just shows them how to take a test.
But is that individual effort? So an individual has to pursue that? Or
Nope. Every Vicksburg High School student.
All juniors go to the Sycamore Learning Center session that we have.
Yeah.
It's, what, 2 days?
It's 2 days, yep. And it's usually that first week in March. And so I brought this up because, yes, I'm very nervous about presenting this data next year. However, the sophomores are knocking it out of the park. So next year will be great because I'm going to say, man, these juniors are going to kick butt. It's going to be one of the best classes we've had at VHS.
I'm just saying, if you have a low score, maybe people are going to get on the ball and
Yeah.
say, hey, improve.
Yeah.
So you can see the huge increase. The guys that are really high say, hey, I got this.
Same time last year when we were nervous, what,
I know.
over 80 points better? I mean, they proved us wrong, so.
Well, and I told them if they hit 90, Hawkins would shave his head.
He tells them that every year.
So 90 points. Don't you think that's a great camaraderie way, you know? What do you think, Dusty? Do you think that's...
I'll shave my head. And then when he says it, I tell him, he'll also let you guys design a tattoo for him.
What questions do you guys have?
Did you have data on your failure rate? That was one of your goals.
So, yeah, so that's where we talked about tutorial and summer school.
Right. Okay.
Is that mandatory?
Tutorial?
That they go to summer school?
So it depends. So, yeah, so your freshman year, it may not be mandatory because you still have time to make up those missed credits. But your sophomore year, if, let's say, you need 24 credits to graduate from school, and you can't get there without, then we make it mandatory.
And it becomes mandatory by default, right?
Yeah.
If you don't do this, you're not going to have credits. So.
It is nice, though, because kind of what Matt talked about with VBTV, you can't take these fun elective fine arts classes unless you have room in your schedule. And if you're taking 2 English classes or 2 math classes, you can't do it.
Like when Gabe and I talked, and he said, man, I'm glad I passed that 4th class, because he wouldn't have room for it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry we went so long.
Yeah, I got it.
While everybody's reassembling, I was just thinking back in my tenure here of all the things that have happened at the high school. And some of this was on your watch, and you can claim credit for what was on your predecessor's watch.
It's all even. I've been riding this coattails for years now.
But that's my point. You haven't, because we've seen the number of AP classes grow, you know, and you've paid attention to all segments of your student body, which I really appreciate. The things I know, the AP classes, a peer-to-peer program, robotics club, National Art Honor Society. These are things since my tenure, so this goes back 15, 20 years. The language fluency certification, if you're proficient. The Saturday school. I think you now have a real collaborative relationship with Pathways, so you're no longer trying to pound round pegs into square holes or vice versa. And so those kids are succeeding. You're seeing less behavioral issues because of those interventions. You really bulked up summer school when you had to after COVID, and that was very successful. The Aim Higher Service Club was started in the last 8-10 years. The Strive program, which is helping kids get to the finish line, I think is in as good a shape as it's ever been. Retired teacher Kathy Forsyth is really doing great things with that. The tutorial schedules have been in the last couple years to try to help with kids. I just learned about VBTV. I never heard of it before. The Senior Day of Service in the last couple years, the 8th grade math intervention. You know, these are all things that you've done just, you know, in the last decade and a half, which shows that people are paying attention to the data and trying to do something. And the beauty of it is I see things related to kids who are into arts, kids who are into STEM, kids who, you know, are struggling, kids who are excelling. And I really am very, very proud of what has happened in this building and the culture that you've built. And my kids benefited from the rigor of the AP classes, because I think success in college to a large extent is if you learn time management. Even if you don't score high on the AP exams, if you figure out what the demands are. I use the example all the time. My daughter, who's now in physician's assistant school, she took an AP class as a freshman, and what an eye-opener it was for her. She goes, oh, here's where the bar is. And that really changed, I think, her academically when she saw what that bar was. So thank you for your efforts. I really am proud of what everyone in this building has done.
It is a great team. It's awesome. I'm lucky to come to work, and I'm happy my 3 kids go here. You know, some people were worried it was going to implode when there was 4 brushes at Vicksburg High School at one time. I'm happy to say, as of January 13th.
And I know he'll punch me later for saying this, but Adam sets an example for a positive culture that I haven't experienced anywhere else. So I've watched us go through some pretty awful things throughout the day, and there he is at the end of the day. Good afternoon, Vicksburg High School, every day. It doesn't matter what's going on. And that's infectious. Yes. And that carries over into all of us. So, leadership is great here.
And we've had a lot of fun at graduation. One year the wind was blowing and I held the box for you. And it was so fun to watch the 2 of you interact with every kid that walked through. Every kid. And I thought, I would love to go here. I could do it again.
We tell them there's a reason we wear sunglasses, and it's not because the sun's bright.
All right. If there's no other comments or questions for the 2 of them?
Just a quick one, just off the cuff for you guys. Just when you look at everything you're leading, 1, thank you for the presentation. 2, just I'm new to the board, trying to learn a lot. If you look at the high school, what would you say strengths and weaknesses or opportunities, if you want to frame it that way, just high level kind of executive summary when you think about what you oversee?
I always think about self-efficacy. I want kids to be able to experience failure and learn from failure and ask for help. And then Lisa kind of hit on this. Like, when they leave here, I want them to have a direction on where they want to go. So many kids say, oh, I'm going to college, because that's what they hear from everybody else.
Sure.
But what does that mean for you? And that's why I'm excited about the CTE Center, because even if you go there to become a plumber and you don't like it, okay, now I don't like it, now I can go do something else. Or you go there to become, construction management, and now you like it. And now, yes, you found your passion, you found your career. And that's what high school is all about, getting to that next step. I wish sometimes kids wouldn't jump from, freshman to, oh, I've got to do this so I can be a doctor by the time I'm here, so I can be here, so I can be here, so I can retire when I'm 60, but that's my goal. And I want them just to have fun. Yeah. Like, it breaks my heart sometimes because I see some kids that they just don't have that connection to the school, and it doesn't make it fun,
I agree with what Adam said. We want, basically, the summation of that, we want more Gabriels. We want more kids that find what they really want to do with their lives, and they're so passionate about it that they come to school every day and try. Not just in that class, but every class, because they have this big goal. We want to help them develop that big goal, and that doesn't have to be college. It doesn't have to be career technical. It's whatever they want, and we want to help guide them to that. So, again, help getting to them to the point where they can ask for help, making sure they have at least one adult that they know they can go to and are comfortable with when things are hard. Life throws challenges at them. All of those things, I think, would be things that I would say we're doing well, but we want to keep doing those even better.
Thank you.
All right. You're on, sir, Mr. Rozier.
You got to stand right here, sir. Yep, right in front of the microphone. Yeah.
Hot mic. All right. Well, good evening, board. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Ben Rozier. I am the director of bands here at both the middle school and the high school. I've been here for 18 years now. Hard to believe. But I'm here to seek approval to take our bands to San Antonio, Texas, to perform as part of the Alamo Bowl next year, or this calendar year rather, 2025. Tamara, we sent out the draft itinerary, so everybody hopefully has seen that. So there's probably going to be lots of questions, so let me roll down some of the things that are already planned. And keep in mind that we have taken these types of trips in the past. We've done the Sugar Bowl twice in New Orleans, so this is just a different destination. Some of the things that we do to keep our kids safe and secure. Every night in the hotel, I hire a security guard, and they are on the hall. Whatever floors we are on, they take care of the security for those students throughout the night. They are on all night. The rule is if a student is out in the hallway, that security guard comes and wakes me up with that student with them. Nobody's ever wanted to do that. So that is an awesome thing. Some of the other things that we do, we hire or we charter buses from Michigan all the way down. Better than flying for me because we would have to rent the buses when we were there anyway. So we have those buses for the entire week. We have the drivers with us for the entire week, so we know those folks. We also take chaperones with us, some parent chaperones. And I also take a nurse with me on every trip. We also do that for marching band camp. She's been great. She's done all of our New Orleans trips and I want to say 4 out of our last 5 marching band camps when we go away as well. So I know her pretty well. All the kids know her as Aunt Carol because she is actually my Aunt Carol. And so she's very much a certified nurse and takes care of all of the medical issues so that I can be a band director. Because I can take care of kids. I just would prefer to be a band director, not a medical first responder all the time, right? So those are some of the things that we have in place. On that itinerary, you'll see that it is a draft itinerary because we don't know when the date of the Alamo Bowl will be. ESPN gets to decide that. Traditionally, year in and year out, it has been on December 28. If that was the case, there is a pep rally, which we would perform alongside college, the college marching bands that would be attending that bowl game. But that would happen the day before, which then takes our travel plans back to leaving on Christmas Day. So we would leave on December 25. We'd be gone for a week. You can see some of the other things that are included in the trip. But the big one that stands out to me, and we've done this every time we've gone to Florida or New Orleans, we do a community service project. Anytime I'm taking the Big Red Machine somewhere, we've got an army of kids, and I think it's important for us to give back to the community that we are going to. So we've done a community service project every time we've gone down there. And if I'm honest, every time I give a post-trip survey, the community service project is actually the #1 thing the kids like the most. Second is usually the bus ride. Don't ask me why. Then, right, I get to hang out with my friends on a bus for 24 hours. Yay. Not my fun. But then after that, it's actually the performances at the bowl games or in Disney when we went. Those are the things that the kids hold dear, and that is really, really special to me. So that's something we will continue to do and something that we just really love to give back to those different communities. So we're working on what that looks like in San Antonio there in December of this calendar year. So again, you've got the itinerary in front of you. What questions might you have that I can answer that would help you to approve this trip for us?
How do you find out about these trips? Is this something that you just pursue individually, or do you have a company that puts these things together, or?
A little bit of both. There's a company called World Strides, previously known as Bowl Games of America. Whenever we took our first trip to New Orleans in 2010, they were Bowl Games of America. Now they're called World Strides, just different name, same company, same idea. They reach out to some of the larger programs in the states individually, and our band is one of those. And one that is exceeding and having those moments of excellence. So that's where our band goes to the top of the pile, and we're contacted. And then some of those are seeking out, right? I chose not to pursue going back to the Sugar Bowl again, just because we've done it twice. Let's go to another destination. And really, culture is a whole different ball of wax from New Orleans to San Antonio, right? So culturing our students is big for me. So I seek out that and those opportunities.
Okay.
How does the cost of this trip compare to ones you've done in the past, and what has been the record of success for fundraising and to try to diminish the cost to students and parents, families?
Awesome. So this trip is right now $1,800 per student. Comparably, the last time we went to Disney, which was 3 years ago, that was $1,750. So it's $50 more than going to Disney. FYI, I probably won't ever ask for approval to go back to Disney. There's so many regulations that Disney has now put on groups. It's not as enjoyable for a group. But that Disney trip was $1,750. Fundraising efforts, our band boosters, I am asking them to fundraise enough to take $200 off of each student's trip to bring that down to $1,600. So we're in that spot right now. They are sitting on a nice little balance, but one that we'd like to double before we start cutting that check back to the families. So some of the fundraising opportunities that we do, we run a raffle through the state of Michigan in the spring. That has netted us anywhere between $14,000 and $18,000. We host our marching band invitational. This year we cleared just over $15,000 on that day, hosting even with inclement weather, with a lightning storm in the middle of it, and putting everybody inside the gymnasium and losing a lot of gate.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of the larger fundraising efforts that we have in place to negate some of that cost.
And we could always write you a check, I'm sure.
Dave, I would love for you to write me a check. Anytime. I do have some private donors that have offered up. One has already said they are on the hook for a $15,000 donation.
Wow.
And so that's awesome. I've got a couple other singular $1,000 donations and $2,000 that are coming in to help defray those costs as well. And those are just bonuses at that point. We do have, through our booster organization, some sponsorships through businesses. We call it our Friends of the Band sponsors, and some of those have donated toward the band program, of which our boosters will turn around and defray those costs.
That's a pretty steep ticket for some families. Are there any programs, or do you do anything to help offset that cost for students that may not be able to fund those kind of dollars?
Yes, with some of those donations coming in, like that big check that I mentioned, a solid portion of that will be set aside for scholarship. Not necessarily defraying everyone's cost, but really finding the needs of those students that need it.
And what percentage of your band typically attends these things? Are you able to put together a full program? Or
yes.
Do you go down and integrate with other bands and have a combined program?
So for the halftime of the Alamo Bowl, we will combine with a few other high schools, but there will be a competition of which, if we win that marching competition, much like we host here and we compete here, if we would win that, we would perform at pregame of the Alamo Bowl by ourselves. So my hope is that we are greater than 90% participation. I think Florida, we were right in the upper 80s for the last Disney trip we took, was about 87%.
That was closer to New Year's though, right?
That was a spring break trip.
Oh, okay. So do you think you're going to have a harder time this being a holiday?
I do not.
No.
When we went to the Sugar Bowl the last time, we took 128 students. So we'll travel with 3 charter buses. That's my plan. With chaperones and students, I think we'll be right around 150 that go.
God, that's a lot of kids.
You're saying 150 students would go on this trip?
I'm saying with chaperones.
Oh,
okay. Which I'll take about a dozen chaperones and my nurse. So we're really talking about 135,
Wow,
give or take.
that's great, yeah.
Sounds like a vacation, right? I kid. I really do enjoy it, and it's awesome to watch those kids. Some of those kids don't understand what a college bowl game is like, and when those kids stepped into the Superdome in New Orleans and they were playing on that field in front of 80,000 people, the last time we were there, it was Georgia versus Baylor. What an environment. Pretty awesome. Now, this year's Alamo Bowl, if you're not a college football fan, it was Colorado and BYU. So it'll probably be something of that caliber next year. So you're seeing college marching bands that are really good, of which we just plan to be just as good.
Now, after you perform, do the kids actually get to stay and watch the game as well?
They have a ticket with that price. We'll be on the field likely. So either on field level or they will have seats for us up in the stands. So yes, we'll be there for the whole game.
So do you have to take your equipment trailer down there too, or can you get all that stuff on the buses? Or?
We will take that big old semi
Okay.
because it's an awesome billboard.
Yeah.
So do you have somebody that donates
Yes.
or volunteers?
So the last time we went down to Florida, a parent donated their time and fuel to pull that down with their tractor cab, right? And I already have a current 8th grade dad who has said he's willing to haul.
Wow.
Wow.
So I may have to cover fuel cost. We'll work that out. Right now, he's working that out with his company that he works for to potentially donate that as well.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Any other questions for Mr. Rozier? Before we get to public comment, we neglected, you may have noticed, I'm not Skip Knowles. I was the vice president last year, that's why I'm the temporary chairman of this, and we have Skip and Carol had 80 years of institutional memory here. So we'll miss that. So we're going to have to develop a new culture as a board together. And we have 2 new members that we should introduce that we neglected to earlier, Rick Burmeister and Lisa Hostetler. Welcome. So that's who we all are if you don't recognize people. So with that, I think the next on the agenda is audience, and I think my neighbor and our VEA president, Dusty Morris, would like to make a comment or two.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Dusty Morris. As Dave already told you, I'm our Vicksburg Education Association president. I'm also the choir teacher at the middle school and the high school. And well, first, on a personal note, after hearing Adam and Matt present, I also just personally want to say that I appreciate my principals very much. I'm at the middle school and the high school, so thank you to Allison and Joe and Adam and Matt. I'm very thankful for their leadership. But that's just on behalf of me. On behalf of your VEA, I'd like to say welcome back to our returning board members, and I'd like to say welcome to the 2 new board members who are joining us. Thank you all for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to working with you. So, thank you and welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So our next item agenda is we have to elect officers, which would be starting today through the next election in 2026. The way this works is people can be nominated. You can nominate yourself, and then we will vote one at a time on whoever's been nominated, and if someone gets 4 votes, which is a majority, ta-da, you get that position. So our first item for election of officers is for the president, so I'll entertain any nominations.
I would like to nominate Dr. David Schremer for the position of president.
I'll second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Oh, dear. Hearing none.
A lot of no votes.
What's that?
You're going to need a lot of no votes.
So Stephanie,
Yes,
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And do I have to vote? I guess I do. Do I vote for you?
Yes, you do.
I'll vote yes, and I'll have only myself to blame. Okay. So that brings us to the vice president. So we'll entertain nominations for vice president.
I would like to nominate Ron Santafanti for vice president. And I
second
probably
that.
said it wrong, I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we'll vote for Ron. So we'll start with Stephanie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And Rick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So we have myself and Ron, president and vice president. Appointment of officers, what we have done in previous years, treasurer can be a board member, but Steve Goss has filled that role, and I personally see no reason I would ever want to change that. But we do need to appoint them, so we'll need a nomination for treasurer.
I nominate Steve Goss for treasurer. He knows a little bit about numbers.
I'll second
And I
that.
also would like to nominate Tamara Young right now for secretary as well.
Oh, okay.
And I will second that.
Well, we do need to vote one at a time, so we'll count you twice. And I think for Tamara, the same thing. It's nice because she's in the office. If there are questions or things that need to be changed on the minutes, she's always available. And it just makes sense to do it that way, I think, and it's worked well. So let's do treasurer first. So Stephanie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And then for secretary, we had a motion and a second for Tamara Young. So Stephanie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. I'm so glad Skip told me to write everybody's name down because he would always forget, and I'm glad he told me that. We need to approve the following board minutes, so we have 3 different minutes in your packet. We have the regular meeting minutes of 12/9/24, so I'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Support.
So we have a move and support. All in favor? Aye. And opposed? Then we have special meeting minutes that were open session 12/17/24.
So moved.
It's moved by Stephanie.
Support.
Support by Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we have closed meeting minutes from 12/17/24. So we need a motion on that.
So moved.
Tina,
Supported.
supported by Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So let's move on to item 4C, approval of general fund invoices totaling $280,742.62.
So moved.
Moved by Dan.
Support.
Supported by Ron. Any discussion? Okay, Stephanie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Dave, yes. Approval of purchase card disbursements totaling $79,494.17.
So moved.
Moved by Tina.
Support.
Support by Stephanie. You guys are on a roll. Stephanie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And yes. Authorization, approval of resolution to authorize amendment to district's section 125 plan. Steve, did you want to make any comments about that?
Just that, as I noted in the memo, we had made the decision to transition to a different third-party administrator, and the main provisions of the plan really aren't changing, but it's a good opportunity to update and make sure that everything's in alignment with current regulations and that type of thing. So we've had Section 125 plan. They were I don't know how far back the districts goes, but I think they were originally authorized in like 1978. It's a pretty common most employers have them, and it provides an opportunity for employees to save money on their share of health insurance contributions, as well as flexible spending for both medical purposes and dependent child care. So it's just a normal course of business type thing.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Tina,
Support.
support from Stephanie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 4F, approval of band trip to San Antonio, Texas.
Move approval.
Support.
With enthusiasm, it is moved and
A week
supported.
without my kid, yeah. I did check.
Somehow, I think we should, when we vote, we should play an instrument or sing a note or do something. But anyway, all in favor?
It's a roll call.
Aye.
Oh, no, it's not.
Opposed? Okay.
Amazing trip.
Enjoy. We're very proud of the band and what you have done with it, and that's fantastic. The next items are all policies, second reading of policies, which are great bathroom reading. And we have items 4G1 through G10.
11.
Actually, 11.
Oh, I missed on the back. Okay, thank you. G11 on the back. With the board's approval, if we could do all of them in one fell swoop, that might be nice. And are there discussion items about it? Well, I guess we have to move. Are we okay with doing them all at once? If so, I would need a motion to do that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll support it.
And Tina and Stephanie, you're on a roll. Okay. So is there discussion that we have about, there's 11 different policies of which they overlapped quite a bit. This is the second reading. No discussion, we'll proceed to voting then. Stephanie?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Tina?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And yes. And with that, I think we made it through our first meeting of 2025. It was an excellent report. I really appreciate everyone's report. And board members, if you could hang around, because we want to look at calendars afterwards for some potential meetings. So on that, we'll be adjourned.
Okay.
Wow.